Well, we're talking about Vidi Satishan, the man of the moment in Kerala. It's been quite a day for him. He's gone ahead and met several top leaders of Congress as well as the left. He's gone and met Ramesh Chennithala among several other leaders. He's gone and met other alliance leaders as well, other Congress veterans as well. And he's also met and called on the former Chief Minister of Kerala, Pinarayi Vijayan, the outgoing Chief Minister of Kerala. A whole lot of political messaging here. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out because Vidi Satishan is among the younger lot. This is his walk to the big brigade, to the big giants as it were. A leader who was overlooked at many points in his journey, in his political journey. It was during the last time when the Congress government was formed that many thought that he would be given a cabinet berth. That did not happen. However, he is Keralam's Chief Minister. And today's outreach is a political messaging because as Vidi Satishan was given this post, as he was appointed by the top leadership of Kerala, of Congress and chosen for this position, there were other veterans who had to be sidelined. Ramesh Chennithala, who many say still remains upset with how things have panned out. You've also had leaders like K.C. Venugopal, the strategist for Congress Party. And he also has, of course, come out in the open and said that everybody will back Vidi Satishan. The man who is known for his oratory skills, a man of nuances, a leader of nuances who has won 6 times as an MLA, is now walking as the Chief Minister of Kerala. How is this going to play out, particularly as a lot of questions are being raised about how IUML particularly backed Vidi Satishan? BJP has questioned this. Vidi Satishan has come out in the open and said anybody trying to create diversions to this beyond just alliance arithmetic is giving space to extremists in Keralam politics. Vidi Satishan, the rise of a leader who was never part of any factions within the state politics, a state which is known for its factional politics, the tough rivalries between several camps. Vidi Satishan seems to have trumped all of it and made his way straight as the Chief Minister. I'm being joined at this point by Dr. P.K. Yasser Arafat, who's a historian with Delhi University. Thank you very much, sir. Good evening. The first question, a lot that has been spoken about Vidi Satishan. We'll of course get to the nuances of all of this, but one question that everybody is asking, and that is how is a leader who has kept himself away from all forms of factional politics, which defines Keralam politics, if I may really say so, make it to the top the way he has. In fact, let me just put this across as well. Malayalam Manorama had a very beautiful picture today, and of course with courtesy, if we can play that, it shows Vidi Satishan with all the workers across as the footprint. That's an interesting imagery to really look at as well. But how do you look at this, sir?
Thank you, Sneha. It's good to be here. And of course, as you said, that Vidi Satishan is not playing with any factions and kind of groups in Kerala. So that is one of the things that made him very interesting kind of a figure in Kerala politics. And of course, we know that the Congress Party is known for its factions in Kerala and elsewhere. So of course we know that.
Particularly Kerala, sure.
So, yeah, so he's been building the party as such. I mean, so he was not interested in factions and bringing together different kind of groups or making himself available to a particular kind of a group and so on and so forth. So he was actually building the party from the ground. In fact, that was very, very important. That made him very, very popular because he's not playing to a particular group or a particular kind of alliance or something like that. So that made him popular with the all kinds of voters in Kerala, where we are talking about millennials or Gen Zs or elderly people. So basically, voters, all kinds of voters that were tired of this factional politics in Kerala, and they were actually looking for an alternative who is not really, interested in creating his own faction. So that is one of the major things that we can find during this election, so before the election. So one of the major things that he coined, so he coined a particular phrase, Team UDF. So basically he was bringing all kinds of parties and sections and micro collectives, particularly from, let's say, Dalit communities or the tribal communities, and also other communities like LGBT groups and so on and so forth. So he was bringing together a lot of people. He was bringing together a lot of micro collectives and so on and so forth. So that made him a very, very interesting kind of a figure in the state, and that created a kind of a huge support system we never saw in the history of Kerala. People coming from different cultural premises, political premises, and also social premises. Kerala has never witnessed something like that. So that made him a very, very interesting kind of a figure in the larger history of Kerala politics.
Absolutely. In fact, Yasser Arafat, how do you look at Vidi Satishan balancing the coalition politics? Because that's also been a challenge for UDF in the past as well. You've had a lot of challenges with that, whether it be even with a politician like Oman Chandi for that matter. That was the reality in Kerala, even with the IUML. And in this context, a lot is being spoken about how IUML backed Vidi Satishan. And questions now being said, will IUML really be calling the shots? Will they follow the Chief Minister when it comes to the coalition dharma, alliance dharma, as it were? How do you really look at this?
See, as we know that IUML did not have any other choice. In fact, you have to back a politician who has been kind of having different kind of conversation with them, and also giving a very, very important kind of a very important kind of an assurance, that the secular assurance. Now, if you look at the first statement he made, after he is declared as the Chief Ministerial candidate, that Kerala cannot stand with communalism. So that is the first statement that he made today. And that is very, very important. If you look at the kind of growth of communalism in the state, it's been enormous. And of course, there is a digital hate, there is social tensions, there is caste tensions, and there are also kind of religious kind of tensions in different parts of Kerala. Right. So one thing which people who observe Kerala very closely can really identify. Of course, people like us have been talking about this. So it is not just about IUML as a party. It's also about, we are also talking about 30.
All right, I think we have some connectivity issue. We'll try and connect with Yasser Arafat. But I'm also being joined by Nirmal Abraham at this point. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us, Nirmal. A very quick question to you, Nirmal. How do you look at the journey that Satishan has now begun? It's not just about keeping Congress united. It's also about facing the perception around IUML.
Yeah, that's not the only challenge. I think, of course, that's one big challenge to break that image. But then he also needs to keep the people happy. He needs to keep the factions satisfied. And the financial situation of Kerala is also not that good to inherit. So there are many challenges. But I think to start with, the biggest challenge is that although he has been a 5-time, now a 6-time MLA, he hasn't ever been a minister. Unlike KC or RC has been a 2-time minister. KC has been a 1-time minister in the state and 2 times at the center. So he does not have that experience. That's something that we need to take into account. And second is the cabinet formation. Now that KC and RC have sacrificed their CM seat, so to speak, they may require more of their ministers in the cabinet, which Satishan could be fearful of, because he might think.
I think we're going through the perils of live television, as it were. This is what live television does. We're looking at Vidi Satishan, the man of the moment, the leader who has been carving his journey for the last several decades and now has outwitted several other top leaders to become the Chief Minister. In fact, a lot has been spoken about Vidi Satishan for the very strong oratory, in-depth debates that he has led in. A very fierce opposition leader that he carved himself as an image. And that's really what has catapulted him as the candidate, one as a candidate, and second as a face, as a front runner for the post of Chief Minister, and eventually to being the Chief Minister. And we have Nirmal Abraham back at this moment. Nirmal, continue with what you were talking about, the challenges and of course the coalition dharma being one of them.
Yeah, so I think cabinet formation would also be a challenge because there again, he has to satisfy both the camps. He has to satisfy the RC camp and the KC camp. But then when he does that, he could also be fearful of the fact that he will end up running a shadow government of either KC Venugopal or KC Venugopal and Ramesh Chennithala combined. Plus, he has to get a lot of equations right. As you know, in many of the states, you have to, Kerala is a very diverse state. So he has to have not only religion is a factor, denominations within a religion, caste, gender, geography, history of the candidates, and even their experience, competence. A lot of factors need to be taken into account.
That's right. In fact, Nirmal Abraham, let me just put this in context. And one is the image of the Malayalam Manorama, the very beautifully portrayed image of Vidi Satishan with all the party workers. I think everybody woke up to that and has been admiring that photograph. But you've also had Vidi Satishan reach out to a lot of leaders. He called on the former Chief Minister, the outgoing Chief Minister, of course, Pinarayi Vijayan, but a lot of senior Congress leaders, including Ramesh Chennithala and others. I think he understands, and the way he's called Chennithala as well as Venugopal his guru, I think gives us a sense of what he's really up to.
Yeah, that's what he needs to do because in 2005, Congress had a similar situation, but then that ended up in multiple factions, infighting, internal politics. He does not want that to repeat.
Right.
But to me, I personally look at it this way. The real challenge has only begun for Satheesan, and even 5 years later, we will see a season 2 of what we saw in the last 10 days, because at that point, we will still have KC Venugopal arguing that he sacrificed his seat, so he may ask it back. Ramesh Chennithala would be 74 years old, then that would be his last chance, so he may also ask for the CM seat.
Are you saying it's likely to be a repeat of Karnataka? That's worrying.
Not right now, but it's going to get worse in 2031 if UDF comes to power again. So yes, the internal games will go on without a doubt. How to balance it is totally up to Satheesan. But more than that, I think his promises to the people, that's what I'm concerned about, because the manifesto of both the NDA as well as the LDF and the UDF were actually maybe not in touch with reality, I would say, or the manifesto, especially the guarantees, including 3,000 rupees social welfare pensions, 1,000 rupees stipend for college-going female students, 25 lakhs worth of health insurance, free KSRTC rights. We'll have to see how he balances that, because Kerala is going through a very strained, we have a very strained budget, dire financial situation where more than 70% of our gross revenue straight away goes into salaries, pensions, and interest. So it's going to be difficult for him, even in terms of people. But the internal politics is something that he needs to be more concerned about at this point to start with.
Nirmal, one word of caution. What would that be?
I'm sorry?
One word of caution. What would that be?
Well, I can just tell you this. Okay, it's a small metaphor that I said in one of the other shows. I was reminded of Bahubali 1, the last fight sequence of Bahubali 1, when I saw the whole fiasco regarding CM selection, where, Balal Dev ultimately gives the final punch and becomes almost became the king. Now, what he needs to be aware of is the cutter pass in the Congress party. And believe me, there are many of them. So he needs to make sure that he doesn't get backstabbed, but also make sure that the people are satisfied, all the camps are satisfied, and Kerala, as a state, is satisfied as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Nirmal Abraham, for joining us with that.